When I was a kid, I was baffled by the stupidity of the Old Testament Israelites. They left slavery in Egypt after some of the most incredible demonstrations of divine intervention one could imagine. They saw the 10 plagues and the dry path through the Red Sea. They watched the walls of Jericho go down. Why would these idiots worship idols? My problem was, I thought of idols in terms too concrete, as nothing more than bowing down to small figurines sitting on the mantle, or throwing children into the fires at the feet of the large figurines standing near the temple. It wasn't until I read The Source by James Michener that I understood Israelite idolatry. They never stopped believing in God. Their problem was they had too small a view of who he was. They knew of him as a God who saves his people by turning off the sun and turning water into blood. A God of the wilderness who can provide meat and manna and water out of rocks. He's pretty spectacular. But what does he really know about farming? The ancient Israelites learned how to farm from their Canaanite neighbors. First you plant, and then you irrigate and fertilize. And then you appease the fertility gods in this or that way. And then the plants will grow. And then you harvest and winnow. The plants would no more grow if you didn't water them than they would if you didn't appease a fertility god who specialized in that sort of thing. If you step into their headspace, their idolatry makes a lot more sense. And so does ours. The Israelites no more saw their idolatry when they worshipped idols than we do when we shop at Walmart. Okay, perhaps I'm overstating this for effect. Perhaps. Tim Keller talks about idolatry in terms of making a good thing into an ultimate thing. Good things include sports and spaghetti, movies and art, freedom and literature and pleasure, work, beauty, youth and health, wealth, kittens and trees, and everything else. God made all these good things, and then he placed human beings above all these good things. He did this by making us in his image. Genesis 1 verse 26 says, "Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the good things." A temple is where heaven and earth come together. In the temple of God's creation, we take the place of the carved and gilded statue in pagan worship. As these were images of various gods of weather or fertility or war, we are the image of the one true God. The language of being made in the image of tells its ancient audience the significance of human beings. When we elevate a good thing and make it an ultimate thing, God is removed from his proper place. But so are humans from their elevated position as his image bearers. Without God to be the image of, we become just another thing among other things, and a lesser thing to the ultimate thing. Because our position is dependent on God, we can only keep our position if God is there too. This is why idolatry always results in dehumanization. The Canaanites made fertility an ultimate thing. Fertility is a good thing. It is good that the land produces bounteous harvests, and that livestock and the people have numerous healthy offspring. But when it is made an ultimate thing, children can eventually be sacrificed on the altars. If it results in fertility, the death of some children is acceptable. The Pharisees in Jesus' day were idolaters as well. Their idol was the long list of laws they created in order to protect the law of God. Again, their reasoning makes some sense. We went into exile because we disobeyed God's law. So we should make sure that we never break God's law again. We can do this by creating a fence around the law with a bunch of smaller laws. God's law said that people shouldn't work on the Sabbath. The Pharisees went so far as to ban Sabbath spitting, so as to avoid irrigation, which is farming, which is work. If you keep the smaller laws, you can't break the bigger one, they reasoned. But the good thing, keeping the Sabbath, had become an idol to which human beings could be sacrificed. They condemned Jesus for healing a man on the Sabbath. The man, an image bearer. Jesus' response to this charge gets at the core of their idolatry problem. He said, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath." God isn't uptight about idolatry just because he wants all the attention. He's uptight about it because of its effects on the people he loves. The good things were made for humanity, not humanity for the good things. Pleasure, fertility, wealth, whatever, were made for us, not we for them. Our culture is full of idol worship that results in dehumanization, suffering, and human sacrifice. Idols in the West include things like the economy, where productivity and profits must always be in ascendancy, no matter what the human or environmental cost may be. Consider Walmart t-shirts. In our consumer culture, we need cheap products. We need cheap t-shirts so that we can afford to replace them with the ever-changing fads and fashions. And we are unwilling to pay for the actual cost of the t-shirt. But someone must pay. Consumer gods demand the exploitation, then, of our fellow human beings. And I'm not just talking about Walmart employees. Just search up the effects of buying a cheap t-shirt and start reading. Here's another disturbing trend in our modern societies. It's a good thing for children to be born healthy, without genetic defects. But in some countries, it has become an ultimate thing. Iceland has all but eliminated Down syndrome through prenatal testing and abortion of fetuses exhibiting the chromosomal abnormality. When health, a good thing, replaces God, the ultimate thing, people are degraded and sometimes must die. Idolatry always results in dehumanization. One of the dominant idols of our time is freedom, individual autonomy. The primacy of individual freedom is one of the few things that both sides of the political spectrum can agree upon, albeit in different ways. Again, freedom is a good thing, but we've made it into a god. In the worship of this idol, we sacrifice our humanity and that of others. In the name of freedom, we can destroy another human being on social media and their life for challenging any freedom that you can imagine. We demean ourselves as we use the bodies of others in the name of sexual freedom. In the name of freedom of speech, we allow pornography to demean and damage other human beings and ourselves. We accept the sacrifice of the unborn in the name of freedom. We tolerate the senseless murder of innocents and mass shootings with virtually unregulated firearms in the name of freedom. Pushing for rights and freedoms used to mean pushing against injustice, but now it often comes at the expense of justice. And things will only get worse until we reject freedom as a god and switch to another and start the process all over again. Whenever you see another person being treated as something less than the creature that God crowned with glory, see if you can figure out if there's some good thing that has been made into an ultimate thing. We need to watch out for idols in the church as well. Just one example. Marriage and family are good things. We need to make sure that they do not become the final arbiter in our engagement with the world. We don't want family values to become political bludgeons and measuring sticks to determine who's in and who's out. We need to be on the watch in our local churches as well. We don't want to communicate that you are not complete until you are married. This might be the message we send if our sermons are primarily directed to married congregants, and if most of our church programs are focused on addressing the needs of families. Is the unspoken goal of the singles ministry about finding a spouse rather than about discipleship and service? And is the single person expected to bring the same number of servings to the potluck as the family of 8? I remember a time when singles were overlooked for church leadership positions. The idea is that if you're not married, you're somehow not ready for leadership. The reality is that singles in general will have more energy and more time to serve the church. Let's not forget that Jesus and Paul were singles. Enthusiasm for and encouragement of families is important. After all, families are good things, but we must be sure to keep them there. Jesus ushered in a new kind of family that is meant to take a position superior to our nuclear family. This is the family of God, the body of Christ, the church. In Mark 3, verse 31 to 35, someone informed Jesus that his family was looking for him, and he responds with a question, "Who are my mother and brothers?" Jesus told the crowd that they, the crowd, in fact, were his family. Jesus redefines the family. The passage says that for whoever does the will of God, he is my brother and sister and mother. And then there's Luke 14, verse 26. Jesus said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple." That may be hyperbole to make the point that our focus ought to be on the new family, the church as a multi-generational, multi-ethnic family. In the light of the idea that the church family is more important than our particular family, or even the idea of the nuclear family, here are some thinking points. I think about these. How many people are there in my life that are significantly more than acquaintances? And how many of those are not like me? I wonder if we should be missing church on Sunday because of Bobby's hockey game or dance recital or whatever. I wonder if I need to make sure that I support the church financially before I plan the expensive family holiday. Yes, the kids are getting older, but what do they need to see as the priority? The church or the nuclear family? I wonder if we should be missing the opportunity to fellowship with the church family because we're always going over to grandma's for soup and buns after church. I wonder if we should accept the idea that parents of young children should be exempt from serving in church ministry because their priorities belong with their young children. Do they? Now, are you shocked that I said that? I'm a little shocked that I said that, but it seems to be in line with Jesus' teaching. If it helps, ask yourself this. What will your children learn by observing your commitment to serve the body of Christ when they are young, versus you staying at home and playing games and reading books with them all evening, every evening? And be honest, is that what you really do? If you are busy with the church, they will learn that the church is important. And they will likely learn that there's something bigger than themselves. And this is a good lesson, as long as the bigger thing is the right thing. The family is a good thing, but we need to make sure we don't make our devotion to family the way we worship and serve God. That's supposed to be the church. All this is to say that worldviews can often be hiding idolatries, which are hiding in our closets with our cheap t-shirts, and even in the soup over at Grandma's house. It behooves us to deal with our idols, especially the big ones, the more significant strands of paganism that run through our worldviews. One of these is called modernism, and it will be the subject of our next video. Thank you, and shalom.